From the Western Mass News studios in Springfield, this is Western Mass News Getting Answers with Dave Mattson.
All right, thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Western Mass News Getting Answers. I'm Briseida Landaverde filling in for Dave Mattson today. Every week we are joined by federal, state, and local leaders and newsmakers to talk about the issues that impact you. This week we're getting answers from John Doleva, the president and CEO of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. He became the COO in 2000 and then the president in 2001. The CEO and I will focus on the upcoming enshrinement ceremony, which is just 3 weeks away, the recently renovated Basketball Hall of Fame Museum, including the Kobe Bryant exhibit, and the impact the COVID-19 pandemic has had on all events and games this year. All right, John Doleva, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Bree, thank you. Good morning. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Nice to see you. We are social distancing a little, so we're working with it.
It's great.
All right, so we have a lot to talk about. There's
do.
a lot happening at the Basketball Hall of Fame. So on September 10th, the enshrinement ceremonies kick off at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and then the ceremony is back here in Springfield on that Saturday. So can you just tell me what led to the decision to have it at the Mass Mutual Center this year versus Symphony Hall?
Sure. So traditionally, we'd be at Symphony Hall. And because of social distancing and anticipating what might happen, and I guess it was kind of clairvoyant that we anticipated what might happen, we wanted to go to Mass Mutual Center with more space so that we could social distance if we had to. Right now, we believe that we don't have to social distance beyond the normal seating that's there. We have the capacity to do so. And in the next several weeks before enshrinement, we can certainly have that flexibility to do that. But it was really about going from that beautiful space at Symphony Hall, which is gorgeous. I mean, it dresses up so nice and the show is so great there. And now we'll go to Mass Mutual Center and have just the same level of beauty and artistic design to the set. But we just needed that extra space just in case something happened, and anticipate that we could flex out a little bit in terms of social distancing if we needed to.
Right. Now, are there any other COVID-19 protocols enshrinement weekend? Will there be any mask wearing or anything like that?
Yeah, we definitely have a mask requirement. All of our events will be mask only. We are currently debating, and we've got a couple weeks left, of course, before it happens, but we're currently debating, is it vaccine only, or is there vaccine and you have to have a test, or are we going to just not do the testing? So it's a little bit up in the air because of the Delta variant at this point. So we're trying to nail that down now. So it's a timely question, but I don't necessarily have the answer other than we are looking at mask only. Of course, not when you're eating or drinking, but if any event that you're attending where you're not eating or drinking, no matter where it would be, even in the hotels, you would be asked to mask up.
Right. Now that I understand that it's a COVID-19 decision, next year, can we expect it to be back at Symphony Hall, or are you guys moving more towards Mass Mutual?
That's a great question. We have a long history with Symphony Hall, and again, it's just such a beautiful spot. We are so appreciative, frankly, of the Mass Mutual Center and the staff there that has stepped up and been so cooperative for us to we just got to kind of measure what it is. And we have large classes and we have small classes. We have high capacity attendance and we have medium capacity attendance. So it may be a blend. But right now, I mean, we're looking forward to this one. I know that the Symphony Hall is getting ready and ramping up for events this fall. So we do have options, but it will be in downtown Springfield.
Right, so a decision we have to keep a close eye on.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is probably unheard of. You had the 2020 enshrinement ceremony in May, and now this one in September. How busy have you been planning 2 ceremonies in 1 year? Yeah,
I mean, it's been doing that, including cutting about 30% of our full-time staff because of COVID. So think about that. We were planning to have the 2020 enshrinement in September of 2020. It would have been a combination of Mohegan Sun and then the ceremony here in Springfield. That couldn't happen. We thought about October, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we kind of put our stake in May, and we did the whole ceremony in May down at Mohegan Sun for a couple of reasons. One, we weren't allowed to have it here in Massachusetts. If you recall, there was no larger gathering indoors until early June. And so we couldn't have done it in May whatsoever. And Mohegan Sun had been open since June 1 of 2020. They had 4 million guests come through before our enshrinement ceremony. And it gave us an opportunity, frankly, for our largest fundraiser of the year to go on, and a very large class. And it was very successful. But of course, we want to be back here in Springfield for the enshrinement ceremonies, and that's why we're at Mass Mutual Center in this September.
I mean, we have to be here. It's the birthplace of basketball, right?
We do have to be here. It's the birthplace of basketball. You know, it wasn't a decision to go to Mohegan Sun because we just weren't allowed to be here.
Right.
So, you know, people say, how did you decide to do that? We didn't. We couldn't be here, and we had to be somewhere.
It was for safety reasons.
So they were flexible, and I appreciate everything that they did, protocols and testing and all of the employees. I mean, it was a real effort on their part to pull it off. But we're back here. We want to celebrate. We're planning some great things downtown, and including on Sunday, September 12th, we're going to have a community concert, kind of a community day down at the Hall of Fame. I call it closing ceremonies, but a couple of bands, music and food trucks and beer trucks, and you know, some visits to the Hall of Fame by community members. So we're looking forward to really celebrating this year.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I can't wait. Now let's talk about some of the 2021 inductees. We have some big names. You have Paul Pierce, Chris Bosh, Bill Russell, Lauren Jackson. You know, what does it mean for the city of Springfield to have all those big NBA and WNBA names here in the birthplace of basketball?
Well, I think first of all, it means a lot to them. You know, some of these people that are getting inducted when they're younger don't have a thought process about the Basketball Hall of Fame or where the game was invented or even being elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame. They'll be the first to say that. But as they move in their careers, you know, the Hall of Fame becomes more of a frame of reference and kind of a capstone to their careers. And so to the city of Springfield, it means that we have people at the highest levels in basketball that have a relationship with the city, with Springfield. They understand it now. We've done tremendous outreach in the last 20 years to make the Hall of Fame relevant. It sounds like it always should be, but it's not top of mind. We've done a real effort to be more relevant to players and coaches and even fans around the country. We have a number of events that happen outside of Springfield. We have preseason or early season collegiate tournaments that happen in Los Angeles, in Charlotte, in Brooklyn, Toronto, and in 2022, in December, we'll be going to London at the O2 Center to host a game with Michigan and Kentucky. So we're very excited about that. And that's all about bringing the brand of Basketball Hall of Fame and the notoriety of where this game was born, Springfield, Massachusetts, to fans that won't necessarily get here, and to be relevant to those that are playing and coaching those games.
Right. And what type of economic impact does this have now? I mean, we've spoken to so many restaurants when we didn't have the enshrinement that they were really hurting, you know? So what kind of economic impact does it have for those restaurants to have all these fans visiting Springfield?
Well, we've done measurements in the past, and the economic impact has been between $3 and $4 million between hotel rooms and the facility that we rent and the food that we, you know, certainly consume and give our guests, and transportation and all the different things that are involved with enshrinement. So it is significant. We're very aware of that. We know that responsibility that we have, and also we do other things certainly within the community during the year, like the Hoop Hall Classic over Martin Luther King weekend, which is a national high school tournament where players from all over the country that are going on to play in college, D1, and some eventually will go on to the NBA. They play at Springfield College over that MLK weekend, and it's a great event. We have about $3 or $4 million of economic impact there as well. And that is another point of relevance for players that are going on to play Division I, boys, men's and women, going on to play Division I and NBA, WNBA. They have a relationship with the Hall of Fame at a very young age. So those are very important outreach opportunities. And we know economic development, we know our role there. We know our summer visitation is very important, and that people that come visit and visit the Hall of Fame, and we encourage them to do other things and stay overnight and enjoy the restaurants and other attractions that are here.
Well, I love everything the museum is doing in the community. All right, it's time for a quick break. When we come back, John Doleva and I will talk about the new renovations at the Basketball Hall of Fame, including the exhibits that pay tribute to Kobe Bryant and the Black Lives Matter movement. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Western Mass News, Getting Answers. Our guest this week is President and CEO of the Basketball Hall of Fame, John Doleva. And John, we have a lot more to get to, so let's get to it.
Got a lot to talk about.
Yes, a lot to talk about. We could do 2 hours, like you said.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about the enshrinement, the opening ceremony that you guys had in May during enshrinement weekend. Now, you had a ribbon cutting ceremony. I was there. It was a beautiful opening.
Great.
Now, this project was underway since 2017, correct?
Yeah, we had a capital campaign that launched in 2015. We had a goal of $20 million and very quickly hit that goal. So like any good organization, we raised the goal to 25, and then we hit that relatively quickly and pegged it at $30 million. And hit that primarily from the basketball community. So what we're very pleased about is that, as we talked about in the earlier segment, we talked about how the Hall of Fame is becoming more relevant to people in the basketball community. About 90% of that $30 million came from the basketball communities, players, coaches, and others there. But we began the construction in about 2018 after we knew the campaign was going to be successful. We have revamped 100% of the Basketball Hall of Fame from what it was back from 2015. A lot more immersive, a lot more interactive opportunities for people to really understand and enjoy basketball. We speak to a different audience today. You know, the 11 or 12 or 14-year-old is not going to be impressed by two-dimensional photographs and the printed word, right? So we've got to utilize technology. We've got to have the right mix of artifacts that are there, and we have to have interactives that are very appealing, like the Kobe Bryant exhibit, like the TNT exhibit that we've been able to open. This summer we've been very, very busy, and we're very pleased about that. The reaction has been awesome. So right now it's terrific.
Before we go to talk about Kobe Bryant, did the closure of the museum during the COVID-19 pandemic, did that help, bring the construction up to speed and get everything done faster? Yeah,
we did. We actually closed a couple of weeks before the ordered closure because we wanted to finish and be ready for the summer of 2020, because summer is our high season. It's kind of a bell curve, if you will, that people come in the summer and then the shoulder seasons it's a little bit less. So we wanted to be done for June of 2020. We wanted to close for a couple of weeks in February to make sure that construction was on track and give the workmen a space without people below them to drop tools on or anything like that. We wanted to make sure they were clear of that. So that kind of accelerated, and then we were ordered to just shut down in March of 2020. So even the workmen had to slow down. But one of the interesting things was that extra time, while it sounds like a negative, gave us the time to plan this Kobe Bryant exhibit with Vanessa Bryant, Kobe's widow, and then also visit with TNT about inside the NBA and their setup with Ernie and Shaq and Charles and Kenny, and do kind of that immersive green screen, if you will, kind of thing where you can actually be inserted into one of their programs, and you can take it away on your phone.
I saw that. I saw that. It was so much fun. You could sit right down next to them.
It's like being one of you.
Yeah. And you have a prompter. You have a prompter.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's just like they do it.
Oh, look, I love it. You can see it right there on our screen if you look. Oh God, it's beautiful.
It is gorgeous. So you actually sit there and you in a green screen. You'll be in the middle of the four guys inside the NBA, and you'll be able to read, as you say, the teleprompter, and then take that away forever and ever. And there are so many things within the Hall of Fame. There's Charles inside the Hall of Fame that allow you to take things with you, and that's important because it provides value to the visitor and enjoyment, of course. But then people share it on social media. So what does that mean? Then your friends, your acquaintances, your family says, "I need to go to the Basketball Hall of Fame. That looks really cool."
Right. So, another one of my favorite ones, and I actually ended up taking a picture with it, but the moving a trophy, that's another fan favorite.
Yeah. No, the NBA trophy, the Larry O'Brien, Larry O'Brien was from Springfield, Massachusetts, the first NBA commissioner, and not the first NBA commissioner, but one of the more recent ones before David Stern. And that trophy is named after him, and you can pose with that trophy, and it's on a cantilever. So if you're a 12-year-old and 4 feet tall, or if you're a high school basketball player, 6'5", you can kind of raise that and have it right there with you, or put it above your head. So it's really a picture moment that is a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of families can definitely enjoy that. Now I want to go back to the Kobe Bryant one just a little bit. I know that Vanessa, his widow, was very involved in how the project came out.
Yes. So actually, we had a version, an original version, that she signed off on, but was probably a little bit too early after Kobe passed, and she probably wasn't paying as much attention. And we started to construct that, and we did a check-in, and she had a different feeling about it at that point. And she got personally involved with the design of that, with our construction team and our architectural team, and the result was amazing. I know what it was supposed to look like, and I know the new version that she helped design. It's night and day. We've had people call us from California and say, I'm coming to see this. How long is it going to be up? Don't take it down before I come. We have people that have cried in there. We have people that really have a moment with Kobe, and we've got some really cool things in there. But Vanessa, she came the Friday of enshrinement in May with her girls, and she had a private tour of it, and obviously it was very emotional for her. She then tweeted it out that she was at the Hall of Fame and how much she loved it. 17 million retweets within the first hour.
Right.
I mean, that's, if you're the marketing guy at the Basketball Hall of Fame, that's the kind of response you want from someone who helped design such a meaningful.
Such a beautiful tribute.
Yeah, tribute.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Now, I just want to, another one that really caught my eyes in the National Basketball Players Association exhibit, one of the displays has the words, "I can't breathe."
Right.
And, we all know that has been highly associated with the Black Lives Matters movement.
Sure.
So my question to you, John, is what are the conversations like at the Basketball Hall of Fame to ensure that the museum truly highlights the ever-changing roles that athletes have both in the cultural and political environment?
Sure. Well, that specific exhibit that you talk about is sponsored by the NBA Players Association. And that was an exhibit that was designed to showcase the beginning of the Players Association, which happened in the 1960s. Players were making very little money. They had no health care. They had no retirement. Guys like Bob Cousy and Oscar Robertson and even Dave Cowens didn't have that. They had to get jobs in the off season to support their families. So it really chronicles the growth of the Players Association. And now we know in the last 5, 6, 7 years, of course, that there is a real platform for issues that the players want to take on. And the Players Association is very active about that. They've sponsored this exhibit. It's a series of individual exhibits that talk about different aspects of the NBA players' lives and how they can influence our society. It's a great exhibit. You do see the "I Can't Breathe." That was something that was very important a couple of years ago on the court. And we know that the Players Association certainly has a great voice, both for the WNBA and the NBA, and they kind of lead that within the basketball community. And throughout our museum, we have other, we talk about equality. We talk about the days when it wasn't necessarily allowed to have African American players on an NBA team. That kind of goes to pre-1950. And then after 1950, there was an unspoken rule about you can only have 2 African American players. Right. And that's, we tell the story. That's why the Harlem Globetrotters came about, because those African American players who had so much talent weren't able to play in the NBA. So the history of basketball is not squeaky clean. But it's very important, I think, as we look at that, when you kind of overlay it with all of American society and the history of American integration and those issues, that basketball has a story to tell. And at this point, through the Players Association and that exhibit, kind of a leadership story within basketball.
Right. All right, John, thank you so much. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, the CEO and I will talk about upcoming events, including Chris Paul's newly launched HBCU tip-off coming this November. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Western Mass News Getting Answers. We are joined this week by the president and CEO of the Basketball Hall of Fame, John Doleva. Now, John, we still have a lot to look forward to and a lot to get through. So the Basketball Hall of Fame has partnered with 2021 Western Conference champion Chris Paul for an HBCU tip-off this November. Now, it's taking place at Mohegan Sun, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're working with Chris Paul and his people to have the first ever HBCU showcase, Hall of Fame showcase at Mohegan Sun. And the idea there is to allow HBCU teams to historically black colleges and universities that haven't had a chance to have a Division I NCAA tournament kind of atmosphere, to elevate that, bring them together, bring them to Mohegan Sun, and really celebrate basketball at the HBCU level. There's some great players. You're seeing some good high school players committing to HBCU for reasons of basketball and social justice issues. So I think that's really on the rise. But to have someone like Chris Paul associate with the Basketball Hall of Fame and allow us to co-brand that and celebrate great basketball at every level is a real plus.
How long had he been planning for this tip-off to take place?
It's been about a year since we've had this conversation. It's finding the right spot, making sure the teams could commit and could travel, and making sure that it fit for the Mohegan Sun schedule as well. And we have a ton of basketball games this fall, collegiate basketball events. And this one just felt so right to be able to do this and launch this. I anticipate that right now we have 4 teams. I anticipate this will be something that will go to a multi-day event and perhaps be 8 teams or more as we go forward. And it may not be the only one that we do around the country. I know Mr. Paul is very serious about it, and we're very serious about it. And we celebrate. One thing people may not know about the Naismith Hall of Fame is we celebrate basketball at all levels. So high school, college, pro, men, women, international. We have 2 gold medals for the men's and women's team. This is an organization that recognizes all levels of basketball, and we're committed to showcasing that.
Yeah, so you do have another event also coming in December. The Phoenix Sun Arena is hosting the 3rd annual Jerry Colangelo Classic.
Yes, yeah, that's a great tournament. I mean, we've got some great teams that are playing out there. I think if it's the 3rd, it feels like it's more than the 3rd. But yeah, we've got Gonzaga playing in that, and they're highly ranked for this fall. And
everyone loves Gonzaga.
Everybody loves Gonzaga, and we hope at some point that Mark Few wins a national championship to make his ride to the Hall of Fame a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But like I said a little bit earlier in the segments, is we have so many collegiate tournaments. We have about 8 or 9 cities that we go to with the Hall of Fame brand, bringing the history of basketball in Springfield, Massachusetts with us. And Phoenix just happens to be one of them. And this year we've just got a great lineup of teams around the country. In Brooklyn, Phoenix, Charlotte, I know we're at. I believe we're going to be in Dallas as well. So there's a lot of great basketball out there, and they're televised games. So what does that do? That helps the Hall of Fame brand. That helps our image within the basketball community. It connects us with players and coaches, and just again makes us more relevant. It's so important that even though a museum is supposed to be looking in a rearview mirror, because it's history, we don't want to do that. We want to look out the front window, and we want to establish ourselves as a very active and current property within basketball.
And it looks like you're looking at the players now in collegiate, and could be in the future too, NBA, WNBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so let's talk about the London 2022 games, Kentucky and Michigan.
Yeah, that's very exciting. That was supposed to happen in December of 2020. And COVID, of course, took that off the rails a little bit. But we visited with the teams, and they said, right decision. We want to do this. We think it's very important. And so we will be going there in December of 2022. The O2 Center is almost sold out. They love American basketball. They love Kentucky and Michigan, and 2 highly ranked teams, two very recognizable coaches. And again, so that's our first foray into Europe. We've been international, if you will. We've had some tournaments in Toronto. But the first foray for the Hall of Fame into Europe with games, it will be that event. And of course, we induct people from the international game as well, but we've never set a footprint in Europe. So I would not say it's the last game in Europe. I think the year after that we may be going to Paris in 2023, but that will be breaking news at another point.
At another point. Yeah. All right, John, we're running out of time, but I'm sure you'll leave a big footprint in Europe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's Bree, so nice to talk to you.
Yes, all right, and thank you for joining us at home. I'm Brissette Landaverde. Dave Madsen will be back for next week's edition of Western Mass News, Getting Answers. Take care.